So good morning everybody, welcome to our Saturday of our International Ananda for the Future event, New Wave event. I'd just like to introduce the choir who will begin, and then Jyotish and Devi will follow with a talk. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, we're going to sing Swami Srinan's song, The Secret of Laughter.
The secret of laughter lies in the laughing, not in the search for joy. It's a swallow weaving on the wind, its innocence in a boy. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Joy in the singing, not in the song sung, welcome but never brave. If you think that laughter lies in things, to things you'll be but a slave. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Joy in the hearing, not in the gaining, laugh and you'll never sing. You can win the world and still be poor, win peace and live like a king. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Sing when the sun shines, sing when the rain falls, sing when your road seems strange. In a tempest seize the lightning flash and ride the winds of change. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly. Loo-ru-ru-ru-lay-ro, loo-ru-ru-ru-lie. Joy will come to anyone whose heart has learned to fly.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for gathering together here in person and through the internet. Sanjan was saying that there are people here from India and New Jersey. Not that those are comparable, but anyway, it's a wide scope, New York and other places. So there have been indications that there was once a great culture in New Jersey, just as in India, but we're just trying to figure that out. So this is really a great thing, and we're so deeply appreciative to the team that organized it all, and to all of you who have come, and more importantly, all of you who are already doing things that will have the impact on Ananda for the future. So we're going to talk a little bit, just briefly, a half hour or so to get total, about what that outreach might look like, the expansion of Ananda in the future. So without further ado, Jyotish.
Ta-da! So, I actually don't like to use, at least in this context, too much the term outreach. I would rather use the term sharing, because outreach makes it seem like a project or almost like a department. But the attitudes of sharing and the necessity to share is much, much deeper than any organized effort to do that. And so that's one of the things that Swami has taught us, and taught us starting very early on, is to think in terms of just giving to people, not in terms of what we're going to be able to get back. And that giving to people begins very much in your own heart. There's something I read many years ago about how to choose a yoga postures teacher. And there was one very good piece of advice there. It said, if you're going to take a class in yoga from a teacher, find out from that teacher whether they ever practice yoga outside of the classroom. Because if they don't, then it's a public performance. And so whatever we're going to share, that's the first thing to ask ourselves. Are we practicing that outside of the outreach, outside of the sharing part of it? And that's extremely important in sharing anything of a spiritual nature. Because unless we have a sincere, authentic practice for ourselves, we won't have very much to share. We might be very eloquent, we might be even charismatic in terms of speaking or singing or some sort of public presentation, but if we don't have an authentic connection with God and with our own inner light, we don't have any real light that we can share with others. And so the first thing is to make sure that you are doing on your own and putting your heart and love into whatever it is that you're going to share. So singers should be singing all the time. Swami said that when he was a teenager, he would embarrass his family because he'd walk down the street singing at the top of his voice. But music was a natural way for him to share, and it started by him having a natural affinity and love for the music. If you're going to share the spiritual practices that we participate in, and in fact I would urge everybody who is sitting in the room and everybody who is watching on the internet, everybody who's a part of Ananda, to feel that they're a channel to share these spiritual teachings, including the techniques that we use. At any rate, assuming that we are intending or are actively sharing spiritual techniques, we have to have an authentic practice ourselves of those techniques, and we have to have a daily sadhana that includes that. So I would say that if you're going to share, the first thing to do is to make sure that your sadhana, your own personal practice, is strong. What do I mean by strong? Well, it varies from person to person, but I'll give you some kind of rules of thumb. Those of you who are living in a community or here at Ananda or in community, it's a little bit easier for you, or should be a little bit easier for you. There are almost always organized group meditations, and here in the community there's an organized morning meditation of an hour and a half. It would be a very good kind of baseline to try to get in at least an hour and a half to 2 hours of meditation every day. And it would be a very good baseline to try at least once a week to have longer meditations. When you do that, then you will, and as you do that over many years, what will happen is that you will develop a kind of I don't want to call it spiritual power, because power is one of those terms that is misused too much. You will develop a spiritual authenticity that will resonate because people will know that you're speaking from personal experience, not just theory. And so sharing from that which you have already committed yourself to will have a much greater power than sharing, even in a much more eloquent or glitzy way, that which you have not personally committed to and personally experienced. And so what we really have to share is only the light that's within, and that light that's within is God's presence. It's God's presence in the form of our soul, of our own higher consciousness. And if we sincerely try to get in touch with that, then we can share that, because there's a resonance that will happen, because everyone has within them, in fact, not only has within them as if an alien was living inside, but their real person is their soul. And so if you're coming from your soul that you have gotten more in contact with, to their soul, which is trying to awaken, then a certain resonance will begin to happen, and that connection can be, in fact, life-changing. So Swami could share without ever using words. In fact, I just saw a quote from St. Francis. I don't know if it's authentic or not, but I saw it, it was on the internet or somewhere. On the cup they gave me for my birthday, Devi says. Reminding me, I got for my birthday a cup with a picture of St. Francis in this quote. You should always preach the gospel. Use words if necessary. And so when we're in touch with that part of ourselves, we are always resonating in that way. Swami could walk down the street. There was an incident that happened a couple of years ago in Los Angeles. To back up and say it more directly, Swami was always sharing with everybody that he came in contact with. He was sharing light and uplifted consciousness when he went into a store to shop, when he walked down the street. And sometimes it was verbally. He would often stop people and say, "Oh, what a beautiful scarf that is," or, "Oh, I was noticing as you were walking, you seem so happy." Just something, just some excuse to give people positive energy. A couple of years ago, we were in Los Angeles, and there was an area that we would go to that had shops, and about a 3 or 4 block street of shops. And we would often walk down one side and then turn around and walk back down the other side. And one day we were doing this. We had walked down one side and we were coming back. And once in a while, Swami would see a shop that looked interesting and he would go in. And so as we were coming back, he saw a shop with a lot of beautiful scarves and little jewelry items, things like that. And he liked those kinds of shops that were interesting and had different things, but had beautiful little things. And so he went in, and the shopkeeper said, "Oh, I was so hoping that you would come in." And I mean, we'd never seen her before, and Swami'd never seen her before. So he said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "I was watching you and the group walk down the street on the other side of the street, and there was just a light surrounding you. And as you walked down, I could see this wave of light move down the street. And I was so hoping that you would bring that light into the store." And so Swamiji made an immediate connection, and we, during our time there, we went to her shop several times. She came to programs. But that's what I mean by authentic sharing. He never gave a lecture to that person. He never talked about the spiritual teachings, but he was a living example of those spiritual teachings as he was living his life. So that's the fundamental, that's the foundation of our sharing, is that one, we need to be in touch with the light that is within us, and that comes from meditation. Secondly, we need to remove whatever veils we have placed in front of that light. And all of us have certain veils that we've put there. Oh, well, it's not my responsibility to share. No one's appointed me. Or I'm shy. I can't do that kind of thing. Or I don't have training. I can't teach people. Remove all of those veils, because you can be a living example of the teachings that you are working with and finding important. Your own life transformation is the axis, the axle by which you will help others to undertake their life transformation. And that's really basically our job. That's the reason that Ananda was founded. It's the reason Master came into the West. It's the reason that Swamiji did all the work that he did. Not necessarily the form of things, but the essence of things, which is, one, Master said the highest prayer is, Lord, give me thyself, that I may give thee to all. And that's the fundamental creation of Ananda. We are trying to live our life in such a way that we get in contact with God, that we know God. Now, God is our own self, but from our viewpoint right now, we don't realize that. So we think of God as outside of ourselves. Well, that's natural. So get in touch with God in the form of Master, God in the form of light, God in the form of love, God in the form of the infinite consciousness. But in reality, while it seems to be outside of ourselves, the reality is that there is nothing that's outside of ourself. Everything is ourself. Everything is God in a different form, and we're all little characters in a vast dream. And that dream seems to be different from ourselves, but in fact it's we ourselves who are dreaming the dream that has us in it as characters. But it doesn't seem that way, and so you can't fake it. We had, Anandamoyi Ma was in constant contact with her expanded nature. And so because of that, she often referred to herself as this body. Well, we had people in the early years who figured, well, that's a nifty little thing to do. So they wouldn't say, oh, I went to town and got an ice cream. This body went to town and got an ice cream. Well, if they were really feeling that they were the town, they were the ice cream, they were the car that they went to town with, they were everything, then fine, they could say this body. But the little kind of faking it didn't impress anyone. And so you've got to start from where you are, but also understand, and this is very, very important, that where you are right now is something that the vast majority of people in this world are wishing they could be. Remember, Master said to Norman, it takes very, very, very good karma to even want to know God. Well, everybody here and everybody listening wants to know God. And so that means that you have very, very, very good karma that you can share with others. And so remove whatever veils there are that make you reluctant or make you hold back, and just be someone who tries to share. When we have that attitude, then we can begin to talk about outreach. Because it's one thing to have kind of a disorganized effort, and that, I mean, even a disorganized effort, even individual sharing on a daily basis is a huge gift to the world. But if we concentrate our energies and focus what we're trying to do, then we can have much more power. And so that, then we can talk about outreach and outreach efforts. And we have several unique opportunities this year. One is Finding Happiness is coming out. Probably everyone in the room has seen that. If not, you will very soon see that. But that could be a huge opportunity this year. It could be widely seen and widely seen by millions of people. And when people see that, they are going to want to know more about Ananda and know more about this way of life. We had an opportunity, this was really our first opportunity to show it to a group of people who were not connected with Ananda virtually at all. We showed it to some of Devi's relatives. And it was extremely interesting, and the thing that was most interesting was that everybody who saw that was very moved, very touched by it. But Devi's sister-in-law saw it, and there was a line in there where Swamiji, Juliet at the end of the movie, asked Swamiji what he would like to share with her audience. She was a reporter in the movie, and she was going to write an article. So what would you like me to put in the article? What would you like to share? And one of the things he said is, live for happiness, not for other reasons. And Devi's sister-in-law was weeping at the end of that movie, and she said, watching him when he said that, I realized that I'm in a job that used to be fulfilling for me, but no longer is. And I'm just grimly hanging on for 2 more years until I can retire. But she said, I don't need the money. We don't need the money. I'm going to quit that job, and I'm going to begin living for my happiness, not for some external reason. So that movie is going to touch people on levels that's very different from what we might expect. We might expect, oh, they're going to be interested in communities. Oh, they're going to be interested in moving to Ananda. Oh, we're going to have such a big movement and such a... I think there's going to be a much broader work that's done through that movie, which is just to be a catalyst for people in their own individual lives, in their own individual ways, to make a change in their life. So if we can be a part of that in this year, that's going to be a huge thing. So there will be many, many opportunities, especially for young people, to connect with other young people. Because yes, here we have somebody, an example of somebody at the end of their life, or their life's work, not the end of their life certainly, but the end of their career, ready to make a change. But how much more change will be possible for people who have not yet really decided the direction of their life. And if all of you can be channels to help people even just do what this example said, make the decision to live for happiness, not for some external definition being put on them of happiness, possessions or position or whatever it is, but live truly for their own happiness. That will be a unique opportunity, and it will take many forms. Some of you can do it through music, some through lecturing, some through just talking, some through, if nothing else, sending that movie to your relatives and to your friends, and then talking with them. but it's going to be a huge, quote, outreach opportunity this year. And from that will grow many, many, many other opportunities, because it will not only be an opportunity to share, but it will be a training ground for all of you about how to share effectively.
I'll also share a few words. You know, in the last month, I have felt a shift in what Ananda is doing that I haven't seen in all the many years that I've been here. And it's coming in many different ways. I remember when David Kretzmann, who still should be here with us but has one more year of college to finish, when he went to visit Cité Écologique in Quebec, he said he grew up here, born and raised in Ananda community. But he said when he went there for the first time, going to another community, he saw that these communities weren't separate. They were like, they seemed separate for many, many years. They were like islands. But then as the water of a sense of separation starts to recede, you see that they're all connected. And what I've seen happening really in the last maybe 6 weeks, let's say, is in many, many different aspects of our work, the waters of separation starting to recede, and very clearly a global mission is starting to emerge in many different areas. And very specifically, we had a meeting last week with our Ananda.org team talking about how we can take it to the next step. And we came up with this formula. The homepage should be 60% for people who have never come to Ananda before, and 40% for people who knew about us already. And so, and just how to do it in dozens of different ways, through video, through 1-minute visualizations, through little synopsises of Sunday service. But many, many different ideas came out, how to reach out more broadly with that. We met a few days ago with Bhagavati and Ramesha, who we're very, very glad are going to be moving to Ananda Village, and Duty is, we're very glad we'll be moving to Los Angeles to keep the music scene going there. But when we met with Bhagavati and Ramesha, they did a PowerPoint presentation for us about the vision of Ananda music and what it could be. And in coordination with David Eby, he'll be working with it as well. But instead of thinking of, well, there's this little choir here and that little choir there, to think of really as a, just as we saw in the movie, I think for all of us, one of the most thrilling scenes was Swami singing Brothers, then the Ananda choir, then the Assisi choir, then the Indian choir, and then coming back to the one little voice of Swamiji singing, and how from that one heart all this has grown. But anyway, to look at the music, not just as one choir director in one community, but globally. How do we do this in a bigger way? We also have been meeting with David Kretzmann, who has been working as an apprentice with Atman this summer. He's the village manager here. And he and others have been formulating a year-long course of study, which many, many years ago when Ananda was first creating his master plan, Swami talked about an Ananda Institute of Cooperative Living. And this is getting born. Badri, where's Badri? There he is, he's recording. Badri and David are going to be working on this. David at a distance, finishing up college, Badri here. And we're going to start offering, as soon as we can really start getting something grounded, based out of the Expanding Light, classes on cooperative living. And this also is being done in conjunction with, we have many great friends in India who tried to get over here this summer and couldn't get visas because they're just cutting down. I don't know what's going on with the American Immigration Department, but there's a wonderful young woman who's part of our Assisi community. She's German. She's been going to family camp there, her and her family, for years. Well, she and her mother wanted to come over this summer. She's maybe 20 years old. Wonderful, wonderful young woman. bilingual, dynamic, joyful. Her mother got the visa, and they wouldn't give the visa to Ruby, this our friend, and so she can't come to America. So, and for those of you who know Ruby, she's just a jewel. And anyway, so we are finally trying to figure out how can we get young people over here, and how can our young people go to all our communities. Even sitting here today, there's Shamani's going to be going back to our Pune community, and Gauri's going to be going back to the Assisi community, and Jaya and her sister, whose name I don't remember, are going to be going to South America, to their center there. So even just sitting in this room, people are going to be going out. But part of this Institute for Cooperative Living will be something called a J1 visa, which is a training course that people can come here with, what they're afraid of is people are going to stay and, overstay their visas. So by doing this, it isn't just a tourist visa. You're being trained from sort of the center of the global work, and then you go back to her and apply your training. So this is a legitimate visa that we really know is going to work for us. So this is the beginning of that. Also with the movies, as Jyotish mentioned, we've not only in the same weekend that Finding Happiness was previewed, many of us were ruling away trying to get the filming for the movie of Swami's life, The Answer, which was being filmed here at the same time. And they're going to be leaving for Romania soon to film there with two little guys, Jyotish and Elijah Atwell, Rose's little nephews, and their mom. They're going to be going over to Romania to film Swamiji at 8 years old, and little Jyotish will be Swami at 8, and his little brother Elijah will be Donnie at 6. So it's just so exciting to see. And also Devi is here, and she's been spearheading this Foundation for a New Tomorrow, which will be has the potential for being the funnel through which we can receive grants from corporations and other foundations. It's a non-religious basis, so it's just educational, which opens up the door for grants much broader. And with that, under the umbrella of Foundation for a New Tomorrow, there'll be communities, which the Institute for Institute for Cooperative Living could be a big recipient for that. Sharing nature. We just got an email this morning when we went home from meditation from Bharat, and he's been doing this sharing nature work for decades, and he's had quite a huge impact in Japan and in Europe, but less so in America, even though it was recognized as by the Boy Scouts as one of the 10 best books. But he's not in Japan and in some countries in Europe, his name means nature education. Well, he's having all these breakthroughs. People from the UN are going to be writing testimonials and introductions to his books. And so you can just see how all these things that we've been working on for many, many years, it's like all of a sudden, as Jyotish was saying, what veils are keeping you from thinking you can share with others? Well, there was a veil over Ananda. Swami often said Ananda is one of the world's best kept secrets. Well, I think maybe there was a reason for that. I'm starting to believe, and maybe the world wasn't quite ready for what Ananda is and was. But now, I think because of maybe the instability in the world, and also not just from the negative side, but from the positive side, I think the movement towards higher consciousness is being expressed in many, many ways around the world. And you see, we used this expression once when we were in Italy, and it just came to my mind. We were giving a satsang, and you see the old forms of government, the old forms of religion, and they're just, making this, they don't know it, but they're in their death throes. They're just all this turmoil, all this upset, because the energy of Dwapara Yuga is receding from them. And so they're trying to affirm their reality. And this image came to me. Swami often said that these fundamental religions and political orders, he said they are right now being animated by the new energy of Dwapara Yuga. And so it seems like they're very strong, but that energy will recede because it can't take root with them. And I said, it's the image that came to my mind was they're sort of like dinosaurs on steroids. You know, it's just like these old forms, and they've got a lot of energy, but they can't keep going. And from that way, from the decline of that way of thinking and the emergence of higher consciousness, all the things that Ananda's been doing all these years are really going to start having an impact. And, you know, I loved when Jyotish was talking about authenticity, because that's such a fundamental part of what Ananda is and what Master is and what this path is. There's no glitz. There's no showmanship. It's putting in the dedication and the time and the devotion to God and offering your life to God, and whatever He gives back, we're happy. But I authentically and sincerely mean it. The group of you present today and those who are watching us online, we don't know all of you, but the ones that we do know, you're an extraordinary bunch of people. Each one of you I can feel there's it isn't random that you're here. There's a destiny. There's a reason for it. Each one of you, in whatever circuitous path brought you to Master and to Ananda, he brought you for a reason, because you really are Ananda for the future. And we can cheer you on. We can give you counsel and guidance. But really for us, we will continue, of course, to build Ananda. We will continue, of course, to do our utmost. But there'll come a time, just as with Swami, when we'll need to withdraw. And then I have no concern about the future of Ananda because of the quality of all of you. Because each one of you brings a light. You bring your light, and you're working on that light. So this is, and again, thanks to those who organize this, because it's important to come together and say, here we are, this band of souls that Master has drawn together to fulfill his mission that he came to the West for, that Swami served and created this work of Ananda so beautifully, that all of us who came in the early years, that we have just so joyfully, I can't imagine anything else I would have rather done with my life, truly. And I have no thought, oh, if only I had done that. There's nothing that I wish I would have done other than this life at Ananda. And I know it's true for you, and will be increasingly true. So we have a great work to do together. And when Master said to Swamiji, you have a great work to do, and Rajasi added later, and God will give you the strength to do it. We have a great work to do together, and God, Guru, Swamiji, I know will give us the strength to do it. So thank you all.